All right, welcome back for another episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things that you just don't see up on the wall at your LCS. You got to do a little bit of legwork, a little bit of research, and get a little bit lucky to find some of these comics, as they're just pretty tough to find. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling those friends so we can keep growing the channel. We are inching closer and closer to 2K every day. We are almost there. I think we need maybe like 17 more thereabouts. So once we hit 2K, I will have another big giveaway to give to you viewers out there. One of you lucky viewers or a couple of you may win some prizes. I haven't decided what the prizes are going to be yet. I'm building them out right now, but there's probably going to be more than one once we hit 2K. So keep your ears open, your eyes peeled, and keep checking the channel. As soon as we hit that 2K, I will be doing some sort of announcement to let you know what you need to do to enter. And with that, if you want to see what books I have to talk about this week, I have an odd selection for you, and we have some interesting topics to cover along with these. Just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, so for this week, I have for the most part, I got two chunks, two kind of runs to kind of cover, and then an oddball here or there. But what's going to be odd about this first group, these are some remastered covers. Marvel, a few years ago, decided, you know what? They're going to start reusing art from way, way back and try to leverage the talent they used to have to sell some comic books today. Most notably, Todd McFarlane. There were a bunch of Todd McFarlane remastered variants where they basically use interior art to make new covers for other comics as incentives. And some of those incentives were very, very high to qualify for. So let's just get right into it with our first one here. This was Venom #1, I believe, from 2017, 2016. So again, it's Todd McFarlane cover. This, if you might remember the image, this is the image at the end of 299, which kind of is Venom's first appearance, not 300, but this was the 1 in 1,000 incentive variant. 1 in 1,000. So supposedly, shops had to order 1,000 copies to be able to get one of these. Now, with a print run of about 90,000, just over 90,000, that would make our estimate only 90 copies of this. I put a question mark there because this is the topic we're going to get into here as far as these estimated print run goes and these guesses we have at some of these variants, because the numbers we have are all estimates. This is the best info that we have. And I'm going to go back to what a commenter said a few videos ago about spreading disinformation. I'm not here to spread disinformation. I'm not here to convince you to go buy anything, create FOMO, or make you feel that these things are impossible to find. I'm just saying, use your eyes. I'll present the info that's out there for all of us to see and all of us to take part of, including Comic-Con is where I get the estimated print run numbers, and then I do the basic math for the incentives, and I find the incentive ratios by checking a few different sources. You can check, like, my comic shop usually has it in some of their descriptions. Go collect. A lot of different sources may tell you what the incentives were for some of these books. And then you put all that info together. I'm just doing that legwork for you. Does that mean all of this information is 100% accurate? No, it does not. It is the best guess at what we have. And you have to make your decisions based on how much you trust the publishers. Basically, that's where your trust has to lie. And the reason why I bring this up is because we're going to hit a few of these that just, the numbers don't add up. And this is to go back to, I think it was Four Color Investments. I think that was the handle of who brought this up. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that's not what I'm trying to do with my show. So don't focus in on that. I'm trying to share with you as best that I can the information that we have. But if you look here at the CGC census for this book, which if we do that quick math would tell us there's only about 90 copies, how are there 93 in the census? I know there's the chance that some of these could have been cracked, resubmitted, And, from 9.6 to bump it up to 9.8, the census doesn't take that into account. Not saying that didn't happen, and that's not part of this. I'm just saying it is a bit curious to say that there is only maybe 90 copies, but there are 93 in the census. That don't make no sense. So we all know the stories of the. I'm gonna go switch the screen just for a second because we're gonna go down this little rabbit hole, little sidetrack. Is this early on because it's gonna hit a few of these books. So we all know the stories from back in the day of those pallet sales at Diamond, and you got the 5 and below packs that had all these high ratio rare incentives that were just thrown into those packs because it was overstock, from Diamond and the publisher that just got out into these stores, and people were pulling some very hard to find and very high incentive ratios that just weren't distributed. Wow, how did they get those? Where did those come from? Well, I can't say for certain. You can hear all the stories for yourself, go look it up, go research it for yourself, make your best educated guesses at what happened here. But to think that the publisher only really printed 90 copies of this book wouldn't make much sense, just from a production standpoint. Don't care in case of errors, recalls, reorders, things like that. They might want to have more on hand, so they probably publish more than what we can estimate at. Also, comp copies, things like that. There are usually more copies than we think made of these books. So put that aside. We're taking estimated order numbers, not necessarily what was actually printed numbers, as far as what Comicron is. That is another area where the numbers could get fudged a little bit. It's just the best info we have. So that's how we're making these guesses. Don't take any of this information as gospel, because it isn't. It's just what's available. I'm sharing it with you because that's all what we have for reference. Use your eyes, use your own instincts, and don't overpay because somebody else tells you to. Don't spend any of your money because anybody else tells you to. It's your money. It's your money. I'm not trying to here to spend anybody's money for them. I don't have most of these books. I'm not selling these books. I have no vested interest in any of these comics, apart from some of them I think are really cool, and I kind of wish I had them, but I can't afford them. Or I haven't found them. Or both. So that's what I'm talking about here. Again, this is just for fun. This is just for fun, for our hobby, for our collection. I love seeing when you guys do have them. So if you do have any of these books, share them with me on IG, tag me so I can see that these books are out there and in some collectors' hands, because I do appreciate seeing that personally. Now, let's get back on track, as we got a little sidetracked so early on. Let's keep going on this. So regardless of what we may say, estimated number-wise, in practical terms, let's see what's out there for this book. This book has been selling for well under this 1 in 1,000 ratio. So if you do a ratio incentive and you price via ratio, you would say 1 in 1,000, this book should be $1,000. Well, it ain't nowhere near $1,000. These are all raw sales, 150, 220, 270 at auction. A couple of bids on most of them, 25 bids on that one that ended at 271.66, but still well under ratio. And there were more sales than this. This is just what I shared, as well as here we have what's available. And there are more copies available. I only picked these two just to give you broad strokes examples. A 9.6 is asking a little over $700, and a 9.8 is asking about $1,500 on this 1 in 1,000 variant. Yet copies actually are selling for $150 to $250 raw. And there's more copies in the census than there are supposedly estimated to exist. So take all of that for what it is, and just you make your own call of what you want to do here. I'm definitely not buying in on this personally. I also don't like the idea of using this art in this fashion to sell these high ratio ones. I've got nothing against reusing interior art and using it for covers. I don't mind it when it's done for second printings, third printings, later printings. I don't even care so much if it's done on any sort of B covers, things like that. But when you're making an incentive, it feels like you're trying to incentivize people to buy more to get this, and it's something they already have sort of in their collection. I mean, this is the last page splash of ASM 299. So I would much rather have ASM 299, which you can get for much, well, maybe not much cheaper, but you can probably get it for close to the same price as the raw copies of this book. And I would obviously have 299 over this Venom 1 in 1,000. But that's just me. But our next book that is basically the same book, and we're going to see some of this also duplicating as we go through this. The 1 in 1,000 wasn't even the highest ratio incentive. There was this version, which, well, actually, no, that's not true. For this one, that was probably the highest ratio, because this one in particular, I'm getting ahead of myself with the black and whites, but for this one, this black and white version, this was the one per store. I forgot about that. This one was a one per store. So this one was given to shops, much in the same way we're seeing a lot of these books these days, like the Something is Killing the Children and what have you. They're getting a lot of one per stores for most of the issues as they come out. And again, I don't know how many comic shops there are or how many stores there are out there to get there, but you got to figure there's at least a couple thousand, right? Just broad stroke guesses, maybe 2,000 to 3,000. But again, that's just a guess. This was also, November 2016, but we don't know for certain. We know that the estimated print run for the regular issue is 90,000, but that has no bearing on the one per store. It's one per store. So however many shops are out there, that's how many are out there. And if we look in the census for this one, there are 559 copies in the census with 208 9/8, 179 9/6, and a bunch of others. There's a lot of copies in the census, but that kind of tracks with the fact that there's probably a couple thousand stores out there. So the number doesn't seem too far off of what I would have expected. Copies of this have sold for as low as $90 raw. 9/6 sold for $290, and a 9/8 sold for $425. Still some hefty prices for this. I still don't really love this cover. I mean, the white will make it tough to get this in high grade because it's so white, and then it's simply black and white, basically. I mean, apart from the Marvel logo, it is a very, very basic cover. But if you like it, I mean, that's on you. Go ahead, because here are the copies you can get, because there's plenty of them out there. $185 raw, $290 for a 9.6, $230 for a 9.2. That's what you can get if you want to go shopping for this one. Moving on. So now we're going to get into some of those other tricky ones soon, as we're going to get to another high ratio incentive with this one from that same run of Venom from 2016. This one was also a 1 in 1,000. This is also reused art from inside that McFarlane run of ASM. So here you go, April 2017, 1 in 1,000. This was for Venom number 6, which had a print run of only about 62,000, just under 63,000. So you're telling me there's potentially only 62 copies of this? Well, does that make sense when we look at the census and there are 74 graded copies? Once again, same problem could exist with maybe where copies were cracked and reslabbed. Maybe every single copy was graded, but most likely this number just doesn't track. This estimated number is probably egregiously low. Like, it's probably very low. There's probably more than we expect of this book out there. Do we know the number? We do not, but this doesn't make sense. Again, going back to the point that the commenter from a couple of weeks ago was making, and it is true. Like, this is not concrete numbers, but I think I was more rubbed the wrong way with them attacking my intentions behind providing this information and doing this show. Because again, you guys watch this content long enough, you know why I'm doing this. So this doesn't make sense to me either. So I'm also not going to overpay, one, for a book that I don't feel very comfortable in knowing how many of them are out there, but two, I told you my feelings about this reusing the art to try to sell books like this. I'm not a huge fan of it. And when we look at copies sold, 9/8, 5/10, 9/6, $305. Another 9/6, $384. Not a lot of raws being sold. So, hey, maybe they all are slabbed. But I doubt it. We look at what's out there right now. If you want to go buying them, there's a raw. Look at that, $600. Somebody wants to buy that raw. This one's much pricier than the other one. CGC 9.8, $775. And then look at that bottom one. Again, this is not all the copies listed, but look at that bottom listing, $1,000. And that picture they took, it looks like they have multiple copies of this book. How did they get so many copies of this particular book if they are that hard to find? Questions arise, and I can't answer them for you. All right, so we're just going to move on to our next book then. And our next one is another Venom book with some high ratios. This one is Venomverse number 1. Once again, reusing McFarlane's art to sell books on high incentive ratios with another 1 in 1,000 in September of 2017. Now, how many copies do we think are out there for this one? Well, this one was over 100,000, so maybe there's over 100 copies. But we'll see. Again, I question all these numbers with these super high incentive ratios because it just doesn't add up. The numbers just don't add up when we look into these things. So here, 105 potential copies and 96 of them in the census. So are they all basically graded in the census? I don't know. That's a little suspect, right? But it is what it is. There are 79 8s, there are 12 9/6s, and then a few others for this particular book. we want to look at what's actually sold for this book. Copies of this, 1 in 1,000. 1 in 1,000 incentive. Raw, $125. Raw, $146. 9.8, $600. $600 for a 9.8. I don't know. And there's plenty more copies than this. How are there plenty more copies sold? I don't know. And what's available? Well, we have plenty of these available as well. 9.8's asking $550. Raw asking $900, and then look, there's a pair of these variants asking $1,100. We're going to get to that other one in a second. But there are more copies than these out there for this book, more than these 3 that I have as examples. So 100 copies, probably very, very low estimate. There's probably more than 100 copies of this out there. But so as you can see from that listing of for what's available, there's a pair of books. So what is that other book that's listed? Well, that is the black and white version that I was alluding to earlier. This one has a black and white version, which is actually a higher ratio incentive than the 1 in 1,000. This is also a Todd McFarlane from 2017. This is a 1 in 2,000. 1 in 2,000 copies. Now, 100,000, 105,000 print run. That puts our estimate down at 52 copies. 52 copies for this 1 in 2,000. But yet, the census has 93 copies in it. Once again, 79 8s, 17 9/6s. It just doesn't add up, right? This just doesn't add up. In no way, shape, or form. If there's only 52 copies, even if you take out the fact that, oh, crack, reslab, all that stuff, there are 70 9.8s, but only 52 exist. Well, I guess we can throw out our estimates on this one as well. Who knows how many copies this are out there, but there's probably well more than 52, because we can see there were already a few sold, ranging from $700 for a 9.8, $200 raw, $250 raw, plenty more where that came from. What's available? 9.8's asking $800, raw's asking $500. And like I said, there's that pair of raws asking $1,100 for a 1 in 1,000 and a 1 in 2,000. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be throwing money at these books personally either. Can't trust how many there are out there, but it is what it is. But these are not actually as tough to find as you would think, considering how high the ratio incentives were. And we're not even done there. We're not even done there. Marvel kept this up at this time, as we have this Venom #1, also reusing art. And this is really getting to stretch, because the actual panel this is pulled from is like this big on the page, which is why you can see that there's very little detail there. I mean, apart from the fact that Spidey's underwater, that they didn't put this, the webbing detail there. But this is really close up. This is not much going on, because this was a pretty small piece of a page that they blew up to make a cover. And yeah, just really trying to leverage McFarlane's art to sell books. This one, however, is only a 1 in 500. Only 1 in 500. So much easier to get, right? 2018, May 2018, another Todd McFarlane cover. But with the healthiest print run of all these books so far, and a 1 in 500, the 225,000 print run might give us an estimate of 450. All right, that might be more ballpark, of what I would expect for some of these books. That might make a little bit more sense. And in the census, well, there's still a healthy 282 copies. So there's only 450, and over half of them seem to be graded. 183 of them are 9.8s, by the way, and 65 9.6s. So, and then a few others, obviously. But that's a lot of books. That's a lot of books graded. And yeah, copies sold. Well, this particular one, raw, $166 on 27 bids, and then a 9.8 sold at $328 with 31 bids for a 1 in 500. Well, at least the 9.8 was approaching ratio, but still pretty well under ratio when you consider how tough these books should have been to get. And you would think you can't find any out there, but much like the others, there's more than what I'm giving you examples of. I'm only giving you 3 just to kind of ballpark some of these prices, but there's more than that out there. Not always saying there's a ton more, but there's more than 3. So 9.8, 625, raw asking 225, another raw asking 350. So if you want to buy it, they're out there. It's just a little pricey for this 1 in 500. And much like the last, This one does have a higher ratio incentive black and white version. So here we go. Let's look at the 1 in 1,000 version of this book. 1 in 1,000, which would make this particular incentive maybe 225. I don't know. I don't know. There's 186 in the census for this one with 75.98, 69.96s, and then a bunch of others. But 186 out of 225, that seems awfully close. So I think our estimates still, again, cannot be trusted on this book either. It's a shame this one does look a little bit better, I guess. I don't know. It's always a good panel. I love this panel when I was in this story, but I don't know. As a cover, raw, under 120 bucks. They accepted a best offer. A 9.4 sold for $125, and a 9.6 sold for $250 for a 1 in 1,000. So big discount, really, when you consider that usually if you ratio price, that would be considered a pretty big discount. But you really can't charge ratio when you're dealing with such high incentives, because it's not many people are going to be playing. Like, not many people are going to be buying in at that price, because you price out a lot of people if you're asking, you know, $1,000 for a new book just because it's a variant. And here we go. Here we go again. 9.6 asking 250, raw asking 780. CGC 9.2, CGC Signature Series 9.2 asking $350, and there are still more than these three available right now. So I don't know. Be wary with these very high ratio incentives, at least from Marvel at this time, because I don't think we can trust the estimates and the numbers, because they obviously printed more than what the estimates would have called for. But it is what it is. So let's just move on to our next book. This is going to be an oddball one. So this is kind of to cleanse that palette, move away from these reused McFarlane high ratio incentives, and let's take a look at this. It's actually, let's look at the color version first. There is a black and white, but let's look at the color version first. This is Avengers No Surrender, issue 675. This was a pretty popular run for the Avengers, and this was from the Stan Lee box. So this is Valerio Schiti. I don't know how to say the last name. I'm trying not to say shitty, but there's the artist, March 2018. It came with this. Apparently, it was supposed to come with this Stan Lee box, but then as I'm reading other listing, it's saying uncirculated. So I don't know if maybe this box didn't actually get distributed. Maybe it didn't ever actually get sold, but they made them. I don't know. But either way, we don't know how many copies there could potentially be of this thing. There's no way to guess at a print run. I mean, with conflicting stories of where you would even get this thing, if it was even sold or what, who knows? But I can tell you, in the census, that color version only has 4 in the census. There's 398s and there's 194. And as you might guess, there's no copies sold of this thing in the last 3 months. But there are copies available. Granted, I mixed them up because there is, like I said, there's a black and white version and there's a color version. So here, there's a pair of each available right now. So there was no copy sold of either. I believe on the census, on the black and white, also had like 3 or 4 as well. Not many copies of the black and white. I'm not sure if one was supposed to be harder to get than the other, or if it's just like you didn't know which one you're going to get in the box. I don't know what the plan was. But right now, raw copy of the color, $500. Looks like a 9.8 of the color, $400. 9.6 of the black and white, $200. 9.8 of the black and white, $400. So it's, $200 to $500 is what people are asking for this book. And like I said, there's a couple of copies out there of each, but that's it. And yeah, who knows? I've never actually seen this book like in person. I've just come across it and doing this sort of research, and it's interesting. But even so, I'm still not at these prices. I wouldn't probably be buying in myself. But hey, take a look if you're interested. Now, the next book might be a little bit different story. This is going to be another oddball thing for you. This goes back to Marvel when they were making a bunch of weird stuff. And I like looking at the weird stuff, the Haunted Mansions, as we've covered here before. And this time we're looking at Seekers of the Weird. This was this museum that they had planned to make down in Disney that I don't think they ever actually ended up making. And they had an artist make all of these like sketches and plans for this, what was meant to be some just like an oddball museum, I guess, almost like a haunted, not a haunted house, but just like a carnival show. I don't know how to really explain it, but just oddball tale, Ripley's Believe It or Not type stuff in a museum for people to probably walk around and just see a lot of animatronics and things of that nature. But never made. But they did make a comic based off of this, 5 issues, and there are some pretty cool variants that go along with it. This one that I'm showing you here that's been up on the screen for a little bit is the 1 in 100 for this. This is a Raleigh Crump cover, a little sketch of the grandfather clock. This was January 2014. This book, the regular print run, once again, estimated print run of only about 24, just under 25,000. So the incentive, potentially, again, it's how much you trust the numbers. Personally, at this time frame, I trust the numbers a little bit more. It seems to match up with copies I see available, what's in the census, things like that. It seems like a closer estimate, but hey, you never can tell. Again, these are just estimates. It's all we have available, but don't take it as, like I said, don't take it as gospel. It's not concrete. It's just best guesses, but potentially about 250 copies of this one out there. In the census, there were only 9. 598s, 296s, and then a couple of others. Now, here we go with copies sold. This 1 in 100 actually doesn't sell for all that much when you see copies that actually move. There was a copy that sold for $14.50 raw with 6 bids. There's a copy that sold with 1 bid for $20 raw. And then there was a 9.8 that was buy it now for $150. Now, we look at that $14.50 that was sold on August 28th with 6 bids, and that was me. I won this. I bought this. I won this for $14.50. And it's probably going to be in one of these boxes that I'm going to plan on opening on a pickups video to do later this week. So we'll see if you guys check it out there. But that was me. So I told you, sometimes I buy these things when I see them and research them. I figure it's a 1 in 100 of an oddball book that I found kind of interesting. And I bid what I bid. I think I topped out at maybe $25 or something like that. And said, well, if it goes over that, I won't buy it. But it only went to $14.50, so I want it there. Once again, pay attention to those auctions. You might be able to get some of this stuff for pretty cheap because there's no other competition for it. Anyway, moving on. After that sale, there is now only one out there. And that one is asking a healthy $400. So that's all that's out in the market right now. Not suggesting anybody buy that for that price, but I'm just letting you know that's what's there. That's all that's left right now. So that was the 1 in 100. But they were also a little bit lower ratios for issue 1, but then the rest of the series that I do want to get into because these are kind of interesting. Here is the 1 in 25 for issue 1. Pretty cool Mike Del Mundo cover. I like Mike Del Mundo. Hopefully I cover him on Hidden Gems one of these days. But this is a 1 in 25. Again, same issue, same estimated total print run, but the 1 in 25 would give us just under 1,000 copies. Seems ballpark probably about right for something like this. But only 3 in the census for this one. 198 and 296s. Only 198, 296s. No copies have sold within the last 3 months on this book. So that's kind of interesting as well. And copies available, well, there are only 2. There's a $40 raw and a $47 9.6 with free shipping. So definitely not that expensive, at least for the 9.6. The raw is over ratio, so take that for what it is. But this is one. I should clarify this now. This is one of the 1 in 25s because each of these books actually has 2. Yes, a book this low printed actually had 2 different 1 in 25s. This was, like I said, the Mike Del Mundo cover of the art, and then they had some covers based off the sketches of the original artist. This is the 1 in 25 for the Brian Crosby sketches. So these are, I guess, some of the plans and designs of what they wanted to do for this theme park attraction that they never ended up making. But 1 in 25, or I should say another 1 in 25 for this book. So we're going to speed through this one because it's going to, numbers are about the same. So again, there's potentially maybe 1,000 of these. In the census for this particular one, there's also only 3, 198 and 296s. Interesting. What sold recently on this book? Well, none. How many are available? Once again, we have 2, but not the same. There's one that's asking only about $5 buy it now out of the UK, and there's another one that's looking for 120. So you can see again how the pricing could be very vast range for a book like this. It's just, it runs the gamut of people not really being that interested and people thinking it's very, very tough to find. It, that also means it could be both, but you make the call on what you want to do here with something like this. Like I said, I was kind of interested in the 1 in 100, so that's why I picked it up. And yeah, then we also have issue 2 coming up next. Issue 2, Secrets of the Weird. Again, Disney Kingdoms. This was all supposed to be based on a theme park attraction. This is the 1 in 25. This is a Pascal Campion edition on this first 1 in 25, because yes, we're going to have 2 of these as well. February 2014. Print run is pretty close to the last one. Very, very close. Estimated in the census, also close as well. But we're just going to move on to what we have on the market. We're just going to kind of speed through this to get us through to the end here. The only sale was on August 28th, one bid at 99 cents. And I'll tell you, that one was me too. I bought it from the same place that had that 1 in 100. And nobody else bid on this. So I got this for $1. So I'm happy to get it for $1. And then available copies, there is only one, and it is seeking $120. So once again, that's what's on the market. Not suggesting anybody buy that. I suggest being patient like I did, and maybe you can find it for $1, like I did. But moving on, that was the one cover. Now let's get to the design cover here. We have the next 1 in 25 for issue 2, the Brian Crosby 1 in 25. We're going to go speed through this again. Here, I think I didn't update the print run numbers on the first half of issue 2. So these are what the numbers should have been. I also probably why I sped through, but the estimated print run dipped from the 24,000 in that first issue to about 9,000 on issue 2. If you trust the numbers. So if you do the math on the 1 in 25, there's potentially only 367 at the 1 in 25 for issue 2. So just want to clarify that, because I think I forgot to update the deck on the first 1 in 25 for issue 2. But here we go again. There's only 198 of this particular book in the census there. Only 198. That's it. And one copy actually sold for this one. And no, it was not me. I didn't clear out and buy every one of these books because I couldn't find them all. And no, that wasn't me. But I did buy those 2. So that was it. This one was a particular sale of best offer on $60 though for a raw. And this one is also not available at present if you want to go hunting. So there are none out there, at least on eBay, for this particular book. But let's move on to issue 3, 1 in 25. Actually, I think from here on out, I think they only did the 1 in 25. So we just got the designs going forward. This was the Brian Crosby design. Looks like some sort of like mummy, demon, zombie thing. Pretty cool looking, if you ask me. I kind of like the cover. For 1 in 25, March 2014. Moving on to the next month. Again, the print run dips to about 7,800, so dips under 8,000 this time. So the incentive is down to about 315, if these numbers are to be believed. In the census, there are 0. Nobody grading this book, at least at present. And there's also nobody buying this book at present, as there's no record of any sales. But if you did want to buy it, you do got 2 options. There's 2 options out there. One asking $60 raw, the other one asking $10 about raw, but it's also from the UK, so you do got to pay like $17 shipping, it looks like, if you're in the US. So it'll end up being like a $30 purchase if you're that interested. Well, it's a little over ratio, but still not terrible, I guess. And like I said, I kind of like it, but I don't know if I want to pay all that shipping personally. But moving on, that was issue 3. Issue 4, once again, we've now just gone down to the design variants. So the Brian Crosby designs, 1 in 25 on issue 4, April 2014. Print run dips again. It's now under 7,000 to about 6,800. So this incentive is down to maybe 274 copies. Yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher. Also, no copies in the census for this book, so nobody graded this one. And there was one sale. One sale was not me, but it was one bid for 99 cents back in July. So somebody got this one also for only $1. Not bad. But if you want to buy it today, unfortunately, it's going to cost you a little bit more than $1. You can get one for either $120 raw or $5.73 raw. Your choice. Pretty interesting book. Yeah. Maybe it'll still be there. Maybe I'll go and buy it now. I don't know. We'll see. But moving on, our last issue, issue 5, last design. You got sort of like a cross crow woman with octopus and a monkey flying demon thing on her head. I don't know. Crazy design, but still kind of interesting. 1 in 25, May of 2014. Final Brian Crosby design variant. Print run actually bumped up a tiny bit to just over 7,000. So the incentive has about 287 potential copies, if the numbers are to be believed, which we now will have to call into question every time I present them. But we're just going to roll on and say, once again, none in the CGC census for this book. So it's another book that's not been graded. And it's another book that has not been sold within the last 3 months. But if you wanted to go shopping for one, it's another one that has 2 available for you. You can either get a $100 raw or the $120 raw on this particular book. So no cheap options on this one, unfortunately. So if you're interested, you got to pay up a little bit or just be patient and maybe one will pop up for pennies. Who knows? But hopefully you found this week's interesting. I know I had a weird take on some of these books with those high ratio incentives and then some of these oddball things here at the end. But I just had to kind of cleanse the palate after that whole Spawn episode and do something a little bit different. So that's what we had here. Plenty of these books are just hard to find because there's at least 2 copies, if not more, many more in those cases of the very high ratio incentive books. And even that mystery Stan Lee pull box book still had a pair of each copy out there. So those we'll just call hard to find for this week. And I do feel a little weird calling these 2 out of these next 3 ghosts, considering I did just purchase 2 of them. So now there's only 1 left. But if we go by the letter of the law, there's only 1 or none available for these. So we will call them ghosts. But as I said, I'm completely transparent. I did buy the 1 in 100 and the issue 2, 1 in 25 in the middle. I did not get that other one because there's none available to buy. But these 3 you could call ghosts because they were only 1 or none currently on the market. So it is what it is. Thanks for stopping by and checking this out. Hopefully you still find this series interesting. Hopefully it made you think a little bit now that you see how some of these ratios guesses that we have, like maybe they're not that accurate. Again, that's why I keep saying they're estimated numbers. It should not be taken as gospel, should not be taken as something written in stone. We don't know exactly, nor can we find out or confirm it exactly. So just take that all into account when making your decisions, how much you trust the sources of your information. And with that, hopefully you enjoyed this and you're still enjoying everything on the channel. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the thing. Check out all the other shows. We'll be doing the tax show tomorrow, where we'll be doing a football special. We're going to be doing football movies. We're going to tier list the best football movies since the NFL kickoff is coming on this Thursday. And then we'll have Dollar Bin Digging, Mail Call Madness on Friday, Saturday Night Special. Check them out live on Saturday as well for another live show here on Rennavision. Those guys are putting in some good work, doing some fun little categories and little segments for you to go check out every Saturday here starting 8 p.m. on Rennavision, as well as on the Absolute Geek podcast. And then we got the Star Wars show on Sunday. And then the week starts anew. So hopefully you're still enjoying our content as I'm still enjoying putting it out. And I will see you with more of it tomorrow. All right. With that,